Mikey's here. Mikey Kay, former senior British officer who for 20 years flew assault helicopters for the RAF. He's a former strategic military planner, and whenever we do this segment, he leads it, as he would were he still in the military. Does feel like a fast escalating situation. We've had the first use of the Atacms, the first use of the Storm Shadows, the announcement on the landmines today. What are you seeing?
Yeah, it's been a rapid 3 days or last 72 hours in terms of policy making decisions. Let's look what that means on a map. Go slide, please. What we can see here is we've now got effectively a layered defense system where Zelensky can long-range deep strike using HIMARS, not necessarily deep, that's 50 miles. You can go to Storm Shadow, which goes out at 150 miles, and then Atacms, which goes out to 190. And what we can see on the map here is we've got an area called Kursk, which comes well within the range of both Storm Shadow and Atacms. Atacms was used on Monday against Bryansk, which is to the northwest of Kursk. So what we're seeing here now, Christian, is effectively a picnic basket full of defense weapons and deep strike weapons that Zelensky now has.
Remind us about the Storm Shadow, what it is, and how is it being delivered?
Yeah, the delivery point is really important, and we'll come on to that in a second. But if we go to slide, please. That's the Su Sukhoi 24. The Storm Shadow and the Scalp, which is the French version, which is exactly the same, but just called a different name. The Su 24 has been modified. The Storm Shadow has been modified to be able to drop 2 of those. Now, I think what's really... Say again?
In months?
Well, I mean, the procurement process of the Storm Shadow was a long time. We're probably talking out of a decade. The procurement process to modify the Storm Shadow and the Scalp onto an aircraft such as the Su-24, I think surprised a lot of people in terms of how quickly it could be done. Months, if not within a year, for sure.
I know you've taken an issue because a lot of our library footage today has shown tornadoes going out with the Storm Shadow on it.
Yeah, typhoons.
Typhoons, sorry. Yeah. And quite obviously, the typhoons haven't delivered it.
No, the library footage that we've seen today, and it's a really important point you raise, is library footage of what the Storm Shadow was originally made for. And that was originally made for the GR4 Tornado. That's a British jet. That's now out of service, so then the Storm Shadow was modified for the Typhoon. And they're the pictures that you've been seeing today that have been uploaded onto the Typhoon taxiing down the runway. But it's absolutely imperative to understand that that is not the delivery system. The delivery system is the Su-24. If we can go to slide, please. This is a video from the Ukrainian Air Force of an Su-24. It's a long-range strike fighter bomber. It can travel up to speeds of Mach 2. And what you're seeing there is 2 Storm Shadows or Scalps, we don't actually know, being dropped from it. That is what is being used today. And I think at this point, what is it being used on? If we go back to the slide of the ranges, I think what's important at the moment is that Biden originally approved Atacms for the Kursk region, the Bryansk region. That's where the main effort's going at the moment. We spoke on the security brief a week ago, 2 weeks ago, about how there was a buildup of North Korean troops. Some numbers were saying up to 50,000 combined Russian DPRK troops in the Kursk region. This is what the Storm Shadow will be going after. Zelensky will be going after high-value strategic assets such as command and control systems. These will be in bunkers, and the Storm Shadow and the Scalp is a bunker buster.
Well, I was going to say, why is it specifically good at that?
It's just been designed for that. It can travel, it's transonic, so the Storm Shadow can travel up to 600 miles an hour. When it gets released off the jet, as we saw in the footage there, it'll descend down to 150 feet. It'll pop up using GPS coordinates, and then it'll strike. So
they would stand off. They would probably be on the Ukrainian side of the border, would they, where they release this?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's for air defense reasons. You know, the Ukrainians have to be really careful about the amount of air assets that they're losing. They've not just got the Su-24, they've got the MiG-29, they've got the Su-27, but effectively the Su-24 is the only one that can carry this capability, Storm Shadow or Scalp. So that's now become a prized asset. That's almost become a strategic asset. So as you rightly say, they'll want to be able to stand off a little bit so they're outside of Russian air defense.
We've not had confirmation that it has been used from the Ministry of Defence. We didn't have a statement from the Defence Secretary today. There's been this strategy of ambiguity, which we saw going back to the G20 with Keir Starmer over the last 2 days. And I would suppose that they will maintain that, right? And that's important when we talk about these fragments of missiles we're seeing, because, as you say, it could be the scalp.
It could be. I mean, Sir Keir Starmer has at the G20, he's held his cards very, very close to his chest. You know, and as a military strategic planner, a former planner, you don't want politicians telegraphing what your next moves are going to be. You don't want to be giving Putin the ammunition in terms of where he now has his air defence systems, his airfield, his C2 bunkers that are now in a vulnerable position. So I think what Sir Keir Starmer did was absolutely correct. But if you can go slide, please, what you'll see from this next picture is a storm shadow / scalp. The point of this, Christian, is that they look exactly the same. And so until we get absolute verified evidence of debris, fragmentation, if we've got a UK government minister or a senior MOD official from the UK saying, yes, we approve Storm Shadow and Storm Shadow was used, then, you know, there's always a small sort of area of ambiguity as to whether that could be scalp. And it's important to say we've heard nothing from the French government yet as well.